All right, welcome, my friends, to episode 769 of Extreme Health Radio. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you guys. You know, it's been just really humbling for me the past few weeks to just consider the amount of work that we've done and how many people we're impacting. And, you know, I get emails from people that listen all over the world, in Africa and Australia and New Zealand and in Europe. It's just like, wow, I can't believe this. I don't know what it is. You know, I've been doing this show since 2012 and I'm still blown away by the impact it's having. And sometimes it's really kind of strange because you do a show like this and you kind of put it out there and you're talking in a room into a microphone and, it doesn't feel like really anyone's being impacted until you get the emails that come back. So I'm just really blessed. I'm really, really thankful for you guys listening and all of that. And so on today's show, I just wanted to give a little update on things that we're doing and kind of updates from us personally, what's going on in our personal lives and some things that we're working on with our health and the direction that we're going and all kinds of cool stuff. And just basically keep it a pretty low profile show, just sharing all of that information. And a couple things I wanted to say at the outset. Our Relax Far Infrared Sauna is currently on sale. So for those that have been asking, I think the coupon code is SPRING23, and that will get you $150 off. By the time you're listening to this, so that's the good news. The bad news is the Aquacure molecular hydrogen Brown's gas device. The price is going to be the same, but unfortunately, now this wasn't set by us, but George had to change sort of how it works because some people were, giving a bigger discount and there were people giving bigger discounts than other people. And it was kind of became confusing. And so he wanted to sort of level off the playing field there. And so beginning May 1st, 2023, the biggest discount that we can give is $125 off, whereas before we were giving $250 off. So there's nothing we could do about that, unfortunately. But if you are in the market to get a molecular hydrogen Brown's gas device, the code EHR10 will get you $125 off. So I just wanted to let you know about that. A couple things coming up. And also, I wanted to tell you that my friend Matt from MitoLife is launching a zinc product, which was really cool because I have been someone who takes zinc and I really like it. And I always take it with copper though, to make sure the ratios are good. And, because if you take too much copper, it could deplete zinc. If you take too much zinc, it could deplete copper. So they're kind of working on a seesaw like that. There's an interesting study, though, that I saw that says zinc is necessary for the activity of over 300 enzymes that aid in metabolism, digestion, nerve function, along with taste and smell. And that is from a PubMed article. Let me take a look at that real quick. It's called Recent Aspects of the Effects of Zinc on Human Health. So that was really interesting in terms of 300 enzymes that zinc impacts, much like magnesium, right? But then here is another one. It says zinc may act as an antioxidant, reducing inflammation and protecting against chronic conditions like heart disease, cancer, and diabetes. It's like, wow. So, those are the three killers, right? Heart disease, cancer, and diabetes. And so the title of that is Antioxidant and Anti-Inflammatory Effects of Zinc. And you can look that up. I'll link it in the show notes of this podcast if you're interested in that. And so what's really cool is that Matt just launched this new zinc product, which I'm really excited about because I've been doing some deep dives on zinc recently following the work of George Eby, or Eby, I think it is, EBY. And he has a lot of information on zinc. But in terms of wound healing, diabetes management, muscle health, neuroprotective effects, anti-aging effects, antioxidant properties, and as well as blood sugar regulation for vision issues. I mentioned taste and smell before, but skin health and bone health, all of these are directly impacted by the zinc ion and the zinc mineral. So I'm really excited about this because I kind of joked with Matt before that MitoLife is becoming somewhat of an Amazon for my supplement needs, because I'm always buying his products, but then I'm adding in other ones from other companies, and now he's sort of becoming a one-stop shop. So if you are interested, if you have seasonal allergies, by the way, too, zinc would be really, really helpful for that. Anytime I have different kinds of zinc, I'll take zinc acetate. This one here, I haven't tried it yet from Matt, but it's bound to carnosine because he just launched it. So I'm going to be ordering some myself. But zinc should be a part of your protocol, and when you combine it with ascorbic acid, it's extremely powerful. So that should be part of your overall health strategy and antihistamine strategy and anti-allergy strategy and lowering inflammation and anti-aging. The combination of zinc and vitamin C are extremely, extremely powerful, especially synergistically. It's kind of similar to vitamin C and vitamin E and how they both work together too. Because vitamin E helps to protect the voltage-gated calcium ion channels of the cell, and supply the cell membrane with electrons. And when electrons are lost due to pro-inflammatory processes inside the body, vitamin C will step in and donate an electron to vitamin E, which will help protect the cell membrane and therefore the voltage of the cell. And we know that from Dr. Jerry Tennett's work, Healing is Voltage, which is the name of his book, which is a great book, by the way. Speaking of, we're working to get him on the show. So I've been really interested lately in researching electrons, voltage, grounding, and how they all play a role, and specifically the synergistic effect of electrons and antioxidants. Because you could have a ton of antioxidants, but if you don't have enough electrons to make them work and to make the antioxidants be able to shuttle electrons through themselves and to be able to not become pro-oxidized after an electron donation, then the lifespan of an antioxidant is not going to be as long as you would like. So I would rather have more electrons than antioxidants, because antioxidants are relatively easy to get, right? You can take dragon's blood from Cultivate Elevate, which we're going to be adding to our store because I've had really good success with that product. Dragon's blood, vitamin C, vitamin E, C60. There's some debate about C60, but I'm a big fan of it right now. And there's a lot of antioxidants in berries and stuff like that, but it's relatively easy to get antioxidants. But if you don't have the electrons to allow the antioxidants to have a longer lifespan and to be able to donate and shuttle electrons through themselves, then it's going to be almost deleterious situation, because the antioxidants, after they donate electrons, it's possible that they can become pro-oxidized. So working synergistically together, and that makes sense, right? We're supposed to be grounded to the earth, getting free electrons from the earth, and eating a diet high in antioxidants, which would be a diet coming from the earth. So we would naturally in human history have both, right? But now we unplug ourselves from the earth and take massive amounts of antioxidants. And so you'll have a better effect when you do these things together. So anyway, all that to say, zinc works really beautifully with vitamin C. So that would be a great combination for MitoLife to try. Vitamin C and vitamin E work together as well. So that would be a really great and powerful synergistic combination to try out. So as always, any products from MitoLife, including their water filter, which we just installed, by the way. So I'll be giving an update on that very soon. But any products from MitoLife, you can use our code EHR15 and get a 15% discount. So let's see, what else is going on? All right, so that's the Sauna sale. Matt launched the product, the zinc, so go check those out. Use our code there. Many of you guys listened to, it was really popular, the episode that we did with Matt Roski from Cultivate Elevate. That was episode 763, which is a couple months ago maybe. And we did an Electroculture update. And we have, just to give you guys a little knowledge about what we're doing here. Most of you guys know we're in California and we don't have a lot of land, right? We have a tiny little backyard. We actually have two backyards. We rent two spaces. And so we have, two backyards, which is great. So we have 10 chickens. Let's see. We have a bunny rabbit, thanks to Kate. she loves those bunny rabbits, like the Lopsy ones, where the ears flop down. So we have one of those. But what's great about the bunny rabbit is the poop from the bunny rabbit, we call him Scout, goes into our compost. And so that's really awesome to have the bunny rabbit just for that reason alone. So we have the bunny rabbit. We have got 10 chickens. We have, even though we lost a chicken recently, we have 10 chickens, and then we have, I think, 12 or 13 fruit trees in a little tiny space. On the side of our house, we have 5 fruit trees, and in between the fruit trees, we have raised beds. And then behind the raised beds, we have like green beans that climb. I think we're going to do some cucumbers that climb. We have a bunch of blackberries and raspberries and those kind of viney, climbing plants. And so we're really utilizing that side yard of ours, with a lot of fruit trees. So we have a fig tree, an avocado tree, an apricot tree, a peach tree, and gosh, what's the other one? I forget, something else. Oh, an apple tree. So that's all just on the side yard. And then we have a handful of other trees, a guava tree, a lemon tree, an orange tree. So we're really kind of like, trying our best here to grow some fruit trees. And we have a couple raised beds, which most of you guys have seen on Instagram. And we've been adding and amending to our soils. Been learning a lot about soils lately from a guy by the name of Howard Garrett. And his website is dirtdoctor.com. And we're going to be implementing some of his stuff. And I'm actually going to be inviting him on the show. I really like his work and his information he puts out. Dirtdoctor.com, which is a pretty cool name. So been learning a lot about soil remediation. And in the meantime, we've been adding the copper antennas to all of our trees. So Matt on the show said that one 6-foot high copper antenna, which is basically copper wire that you can get from Amazon or from anywhere, really, a hardware store. And you can get little sticks you can get either in your own local area or whatever the case may be. The taller, the better. And basically you wrap the copper wire at the bottom of the stick and you put the stick in the ground a few inches. You got to make sure the copper goes into the dirt though. And then you basically just wrap the copper wire around the stick. And like I said, the higher the stick, the better the results. And the thicker the copper wire, the better results. So you can get different gauge copper wire. And essentially, what that does, there's no way to really prove this, but you can follow Cultivate Elevate online on Instagram, Matt's, Instagram channel there. And essentially what copper seems to be doing is pulling in ether and electromagnetic forces and energy from the natural environment and conducting that electricity down in through the wire into the dirt, which alters the pH of the dirt, of the soil, and allows fruits and vegetables to grow without insects, stuff like that, things that are going to kill it, allows the fruit to grow bigger and faster. And so going back to the amount of copper Matt was talking about, he said that one 6-foot antenna would cover, I think, 250 square feet, if my memory is correct, from episode 763. But you know how we do. So we just got a bunch of sticks and put one stick on each fruit tree, basically. So our apple tree is coming back. That was pretty much dormant, and now it's fully coming back with new leaves and new stems. So that's pretty exciting. We do have, in full disclosure, we had two fruit trees that I don't think we planned correctly, and they ended up dying. And if you go on Matt's Instagram, you'll see it's cultivateelevate.com or Cultivate Elevate. And we're going to soon be adding some of his products to our store because I really, really like them. I've been playing with his pearl powder and his dragon's blood specifically, and those are really, really powerful. Anyway, a lot of people on his Instagram are sharing stories of how these copper antennas are actually bringing some of their plants back to life, which is really interesting. So far, we haven't noticed that with the two trees that we had that died. The two trees that we had that died, our soils here in Southern California are extremely clay-like. So you have to be really careful with what you do and what you plant where. And so we just made a mistake. We planted trees that require a lot of sun and in an area where there's a lot of shade, and they died. So we're still waiting for them to come back. Hopefully they will. So that's the electroculture update. And you can do electroculture inside. You can do it on balconies. You can do it on little toothpicks. You can do it in a lot of different ways. And it's a free and easy way to bring in the copper and the antennas to gather the ether from the environment into your soils. So play around with it. Listen to that episode 763 and see what you think about that. It's really, really cool. And I'm also going to be interviewing someone else on electroculture as well. So that's going to be really interesting. We've got him scheduled for May, so that's going to be fun. Okay, so our freeze drying update. So many of you guys know that we have the Harvest Right freeze dryer. And we've been freeze drying so much food because God only knows what's going to happen, right? If you listen to alternative media, you really know what's going on. If you listen to the mainstream, you think everything's fine, right? But it's not. There will come a day when there's no food. And so we have been stocking up on food for the past 2 years. It's funny because when this whole thing happened, the Big C, Little V, I knew from day one, and I don't know how I knew this. Maybe it's because I went through all the other ones that were just, in my opinion, fake as well, years ago. And, I've known about the Community 300. I've read about them, studied them extensively. So when this all happened, I knew right away that it was, I don't know what you want to call it. If they just hijacked the flu or whatever the case may be, I just knew that something wasn't right. And this was all going to be used as a what David Icke calls the totalitarian tiptoe to get us into Agenda 2030 and the Great Reset. So I knew from day one. So it was really like an excuse for us to get going and get our garden going. I'd always wanted to do a garden and to plug into nature, plug into the earth. But I've just always been so busy and just unable to do it because, some of these trees can be costly and stuff like that. So we're really blessed to be able to do it now. And this was just the impetus for me to get going on that. So I want to encourage you to get going on growing some of your own food, as much as you can. So we bought the Harvest Right freeze dryer. We bought the large one that, let's see, doesn't require, it uses the oilless pump. And I have to say, for those that are considering getting one, I really recommend that one because that one requires zero maintenance. With twin boys that are 5 years old, they're constantly going. It's really, really difficult to keep up. Running two businesses and getting back to people and scheduling shows and marketing and researching and producing and all that stuff that I do. I don't have time to do maintenance on stuff like that. So the Harvest Right freeze dryer is a really cool tool. And essentially what it allows you to do is to freeze dry meals. Like you can do the freeze dried ice cream. You can do freeze dried. We do a lot of eggs and meat. And what you do is it takes a good few days. Like I will warn you, I might take 2 to 3 days maybe, to freeze dry, but you can freeze dry a ton of food. Like I think with our meat, when we do ground beef, we could do like 15 pounds of meat. And so that's a lot, right? And so I think I have it all written down on my computer, but with eggs, I think we can do like 85 eggs or something, or no, it's 185 eggs or something crazy, in one batch. And so, I could eat maybe 2-3 eggs a day kind of thing. And so this will last you a long time, one batch. So, it's really, really worth it because the other reason why we got it is because we know eventually the grid and the power system is going to go off, right? It's going to, especially with this new proposed law in California, which, this is unbelievable. But wherever you live, it is completely unstable. The infrastructure of the United States itself is incredibly fragile and hasn't been updated for decades. And so we know that at some point this is going to be tinkered with as a mechanism to use for control. And so what happens when you have, 3 freezers full of meat that all of a sudden the power goes out, right? So this is a way of storing food for up to 25 years. And all you have to do is reconstitute it with water. Another thing that we purchased recently is a device that makes water out of the air. It's called the Kara Pure, K-A-R-A-P. I think it's Kara. Geez, I don't know. Type it into Google or something. Kara Pure Water. And essentially it allows you to make water out of the air through the humidity. And it's basically a modified dehumidifier. But it actually makes the water, it purifies the water, it alkalinizes it, all that stuff. I wouldn't rely on it for drinking. I'd also put it through a Berkey system, if the power went out, kind of a thing, because that's gravity fed, requires zero electricity. So I would put it through a secondary filter just because that's what we like to do. But it's a way to make water out of air. And when you plug that into a solar panel of some kind, we have a couple of those now, then you can utilize the sun's energy to generate energy for that, and that could make water and keep you alive. So that's something else we've been doing. Something else on the composting side, what's cool, I don't know if you guys if you're able to compost, it's so cool. Like, we put all of our chicken bed in there, when Kate swaps all their chicken, layers out or whatever it's called. We put that in there. We put Scouty's poop in there. Any food that we don't eat that's not meat or eggs or chicken or stuff like that, or cheese, like we'll put all vegetable scraps in there. So nothing goes to waste. I am considering upgrading to a home biogas system. And you can look that up. It looks really impressive to me. It's called Home, like your home, and biogas. And essentially, as far as I know, what that does is that allows you to compost meat and vegetables. And it allows to have a system where you can have a toilet as well, because what are you going to do if the power goes out and you have no sewage system, right? And so you can utilize a toilet, and you can also it turns it into a liquid, what you're fermenting in there, and you can use that on your garden. And it also comes with a stove that you can utilize. You can use the liquid from the home biogas system to cook on your stove. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty impressive. I'm not in any way affiliated with them yet. I'm still researching that thing and gonna possibly purchase it. But you know how it is when you want to make a big purchase. You're constantly researching it, watching YouTube videos, checking it out. It's funny because, as you get older, it's funny how the devices and the things that you want to buy become more and more expensive, so anyway, that's what we got going on as far as gardening and composting and freeze drying and prepping and preparing. I feel like you can never do enough. There's so many aspects to prepping and preparing, and that's been a whole side project of ours too, which oddly enough becomes really, I don't know if you guys feel like this, but becomes really stressful in today's world, because Kate and I are constantly thinking about, is the grid going to collapse? Is the dollar going to collapse? Are we going to have any infrastructure at all? Are we going to be living in a Mad Max situation? Should we invest in the house that we're living in now only to realize we have to move in the future? It's, and then increasingly alarming is the way our school systems are laid out now with all the woke agenda stuff. So we can't take put our kids in school. And so it's, I feel like we've been so blessed. I'm 48, 47, somewhere in there. And I was born December of 75. I don't know what that makes me, hopefully 47. But anyway, it makes me really concerned about the future of where we're going as a culture and as a civilization. And it's also really stressful to know what we know. And I'm sure you feel the same way, right? Like you see what's going on in the world, and your normie friends just think everything's going to go back to normal. 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and we'll get through this, and all this kind of stuff. And people have no idea what's happening behind the scenes. It's a blessing and a curse though, because it really makes you feel, Kate and I were just talking about this today, like you just feel really unsettled, right? So I think the best thing to do is just to do as much as you can and let God take care of the rest, right? So that's our little update on what we're trying to do. And in the meantime, I'm putting out content and doing a lot of expansion with the show, and stuff like that. So I did get an email recently from YouTube which is it's been throttling our account for gosh, since 2014. You know what is, it was really interesting. I could tie it directly back to, do you remember that SHOOTING? I feel like I'm talking in front of our kids. You know how you spell stuff in front of kids so they don't get it? Got to do the same thing with the AI bots. But that event that happened in Las Vegas years ago, right after that is when we got all these, dings and flags on our YouTube account and warnings and, all this stuff. And it was really interesting that there's something about that event in Las Vegas that caused all the censors to go up. So we've been censored. I remember when it first happened in 2014, and I think that was after that, but it's been happening to us for almost 10 years. And so we just recently got an email from YouTube saying that we're no longer going to be allowing you to monetize your account. And so for most people that don't know, a lot of people will put content on YouTube, and some people do this as a career. Some people just do this to make a ton of money, and you can if you know what you're doing. And you're not sort of censored and on their radar, but you can make $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month just from putting YouTube videos out, right? We don't make nearly anything close to that. We make pennies on YouTube. But we have 80,000 subscribers, that none of them ever really see our videos because we are just in their doghouse. And I just saw a post recently from a Facebook page that I follow. I think it's called Truth Theory. I think that's the one. And the guy that owns the page just put out like an announcement kind of text thing that said, I think he said 10 out of the 20 YouTube channels that I follow were all deleted yesterday. Something big is happening. And so then the next day is when we got that nice little email from YouTube saying, we're no longer going to allow you to monetize your videos, which to me doesn't really mean anything because we don't, like I said, make really anything on YouTube, which is fine. I don't care. But the thing that, I'm sort of adamant about is free speech and being able to let people know about informed consent. Because if you don't have true informed consent, then you're going to be manipulated through fear. Because that's the number one tool doctors and the media uses to get you to take action on something. It's just get you fearful. And it's always fearful about something you can't control, right? It's earthquakes, it's meteorites, it's a virus that you can't control, that only they have the microscopes and stuff like that to be able to see these things, right? You're always coerced into taking some form of action based on fear from something that only they have the technology to see or to measure, right? So the average person can't look at this stuff and verify for themselves. So you got to rely on the government and what they tell you or the media. And so, it really bothers me when people, are so fearful that they do what the media says, when if they were given all the options, if they were given all of the choices and the ramifications and the side effects and the studies and the countering viewpoints and all of that, if they were given that information and sort of have everything put on the table, right? Let's put the good, the bad, the quacky stuff, the stuff that doesn't work, the pseudoscience and the real science, and just put everything on the table and let the people choose. That's what should be happening. But these people are actively censoring me and other people like me to prevent you from knowing the truth or prevent you from knowing alternative options, right? And so that alone should be enough to say, you know what, something's up with this, right? Why do they want to sort of control the narrative so much that they're willing to put people out of business or, prevent me from hearing? So anytime you hear of someone censored, that's an attack on you. If you're a normie listening to this, that's an attack on you. Why? Because Google and YouTube is saying, I don't want you to know about these people talking about this thing. That's what they're saying. And so that's an attack on you. So, and that bothers me because I feel like if the alternative media were given equal playing time and the right to debate, there would be no debate because we would win every single time because the evidence is on our side. But they want you sick and they want you dependent. And that's what they want, a culture that's easily manipulated. And so, you know, the way I see it, screw you, YouTube. I don't care. Shut my channel down. You know, do whatever you want to do. I don't care. You know, I'm not going to stop. And I hope you guys are the same way. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop sharing stuff, you know, just because you're going to throttle my account. Thank God that we don't make 100% of our income from YouTube, because unfortunately that's the case with a lot of people. Is they make 100% of everything they make online from YouTube, and all of a sudden YouTube shuts them down. And you know, it's really sad, because it's, you know, just to give you a little insight on what it's like from my perspective as a content creator. You know, I am competing with, you know, all the top podcasts out there, and they're competing with me, right? And generally, I don't think of them as competition. I like the fact that there's alternative media. I love that. You know, and I don't need to make all the money. I don't need to have the most followers, all that stuff that a lot of people, you know, all that clout chasing. I don't need that. I just want alternative options out there. And if I think that other people are putting out better content, that's great. I love that. And it makes me a better person to come up with better content to better serve you as well, right? Where was I going with this? I forgot. Well, in any event, screw you, YouTube. You know, I don't care. You know, take my channel down. I don't care. You know, I'll, you know, we're on Brighteon, we're on Rumble, we're on Bitchute, and I just, you know, encourage everyone to go there and start consuming content there as much as you possibly can. Some content that you consume is not on there, right? The majority of the content that I listen to is health related, stuff like that. But there are, you know, some bits of content that I need to YouTube for, like, you know, if I want to do something on Instagram and that I don't know how to do. Like, for example, a good one is backing up my Instagram account, because we got our first Instagram account taken away from us. They just deleted it. We had, I think, 14,000 people, and they just deleted it, right? So, you know, I need to go to YouTube and, you know, how to back up your Instagram account kind of a thing, right? So there is some use for YouTube for that kind of stuff. But when it comes to real stuff, documentaries, radio shows, podcasts, health-related information, alternative information, I do all that on Brighteon. I love Brighteon. It's a great outfit. But what really is difficult, this is what I was getting back to before, is in terms of like the old school style competition where one business would be competing with another business, right? If you kind of take that mindset to all the different radio shows and podcasts out there, you know, we're all competing with one another, right? So that's hard enough, right? But then when you have big tech and the government against you as well, it is incredibly difficult to be able to get the word out there, right? Because they throttle you. They don't like, you know, put out your information the way it should be. And so, I actually kind of like it though, because it causes and forces me. Nothing comes easy. I want to work for stuff. I want to make sure that I'm, you know, growing and learning as a person. And if everything came easy, you know, it would be great in one sense, but I want to work for things. I want to earn things, right? And so, you know, it's kind of cool that I have to find alternative means to be able to get the word out. So I'm learning all these different, you know, methods of getting the word out, which is great, right? So, follow us on Bitchute, on what are all the other ones? I think we're on Rumble, Bitchute, and Brighteon are the main video platforms. Oh, and Odysee as well. Odysee is actually really cool. I kind of like that. I've been using that a little bit more lately. So, all right, enough about all that. I wanted to share with you some of the protocols that we're doing, because today I'm recording this on April 30th, 2023. And it's the last day of April. And at the end of every month, we upload new content to Patreon. So Patreon is a new platform that we're utilizing for as long as we can, because I'm learning Patreon itself is a place where you can get content deleted as well. But if you like the content that we produce, consider supporting us on Patreon. Or anybody else. Like I mentioned before, it's becoming increasingly difficult to get the word out, because you're fighting against so many different aspects, big tech, big government, the pharmaceutical industry, and then other podcasters and tech platforms and stuff like that don't like our message. So consider supporting the podcast that you like in whatever way that the host will typically ask. Sometimes it's just a donation. Sometimes it's, leaving a review. Sometimes it's buying through their Amazon link or going to their store, whatever the case may be. If you like a certain podcast, leave a review for them or, purchase through their links or use their coupon codes and stuff like that. Because, if you don't do that, then these great podcasts don't stay in business because it costs them money to run, right? So Patreon is a place that I'm moving more towards. We just did our second Patreon live Q&A, and we did that. We do that on the last Thursday of every month. That's available for all 3 tiers. So the way our Patreon works is we have a basic tier, a premium tier, and a VIP tier. The basic tier is $5 a month, and then the premium tier is $15 a month, and then the premium tier or the VIP tier is $30 a month. So a lot of people will say, "Hey, just support us on Patreon if you like the show," and that's great. But we're creating things there that we're not making available anywhere else. And so, as you can imagine, over the years since 2012, I've gotten a lot of questions about, "Hey, what would you do for this? What would you do for that?" And as someone who researches a lot, I read a lot of books, I try things, I experiment to things. Any given moment, if I'm doing the dishes, I'm listening to podcasts, right? I'm reading, I'm constantly researching and reading papers and reading studies and articles. And, I do a ton of research, and I have been doing since, forever. And so I accumulate this knowledge. And when I hear something about a certain substance reversing a certain condition, for example, I'll make a note of it, and then I'll put it in my notes on my computer, and then I'll go look that up and, go down a bunch of rabbit trails and figure out, how much are they using and how long did they use it for, and did they use any other combinations? What was the study design and all that kind of stuff? And so I've just been gathering this information for years, right? And so recently, people have been asking me, "Hey, what do I do for diabetes, or what do I do for cholesterol?" And I have all these things in my head and in my computer. Then I'm like, I just need to put all of this stuff into one area, right? So that way, someone asks me, I can just say, "Hey, check out the cholesterol protocol we have." All right. Check out the vision protocol we have. Oh, you have high blood pressure? We have a protocol on that. You have skin issues? We have a protocol on that. Oh, you have osteoporosis, bone health issues? Check that out. And so I like to think of these as like a living protocol where when I learn more, I add more to it, and I'm constantly refining them. And so I put all of the information into these protocols. And so we currently have ones on diabetes, type 2. We have skin cancer, really good one on skin cancer, eczema. My dad was going through that, and cholesterol, high cholesterol, vision issues, gray hair, blood pressure, skin health, bone health. And this month, the last day of the month, we're releasing 3 more on, oddly enough, I get this question a lot, which is really interesting to me because I've never really had an issue with these, lipomas. People have them in their dogs, little fatty deposits underneath the skin, or they have them themselves. Lipomas, fibroids, and improving digestion. And so what I do with these protocols is I probably do at least 50 to 60 hours of research in each one. And I come up with a list of maybe 15, 20, 25, 30 different substances that you could take for these conditions, as well as a list of definite things that you would want to avoid. Because, if you have fibroids, you don't want to be eating beans or seed oils, right? So there's definitely things to avoid that are exacerbating the chronic underlying condition. So I put a list of all the things that you should be avoiding and different biohacks you can do. Everything from light, water, and magnetism to TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, herbalism from different parts of the world, all kinds of different tools and biohacks that you can use for these conditions. And it even gets into recall healing and spiritual emotional connections to these things as well. And so I tackle the mineral piece, because many times it's the demineralization, is a big root cause of all these things. And ultimately, the root cause of every disease is a lack of the body's ability to generate ATP and complex 4, cytochrome C oxidase of the mitochondria. that's the reason why we have sickness and illness, where the body can't make energy effectively. And there's a lot of things that prevent the body from making energy. And so, lipomas, fibroids, and digestion are what's coming out this month in, what is this, April 30th, 2023. Some of the other protocols that I'm working on too, which are really cool, I'm really excited, is nebulization. So this is something that has been really key for me to be able to reverse lung conditions whenever I have a cold or flu. And the ability for you to utilize this kind of technology to deliver medicine directly to the lung tissue is life-changing. And in my research of different substances that you can nebulize, and typically I keep it pretty simple. I just nebulize silver is what I do. But I also sometimes combine it with garlic. And there's certain ways that you can nebulize garlic. But in my protocol, I'm going to be giving you the why of certain substances and the how. So the different things that you can nebulize are methylene blue, silver, garlic, magnesium, MMS, DMSO, vitamin C, sodium bicarbonate, hydrogen peroxide, iodine, and glutathione. So I'm going to be putting together the recipes on how to do that and where to get the substances and what ratios to make so that it's safe for you and your lungs. Again, not medical advice, just something I would do. It's just for my own benefit, really. And sometimes people will combine 2 or 3 of those together, and I'll get into the why of that as well. So if you have a family or, you're worried about getting sick yourself, it's good to have these things. What I always recommend people do is have a little box at home that you keep in the kitchen, or, it doesn't have to be a box, just a little container where you keep all this stuff. And maybe you buy 2 methylene blues, one to use on a regular basis and one to keep in this container in your kitchen. And you can utilize this anytime you get sick. So in my research, I'm reading about the ability to have a cold or flu and to feel the symptoms in the morning and to literally go through that full day and have it be gone by the time you go to bed. Just with nebulization, just with nebulizing. So it's possible. And so nebulization is really powerful. And I talk about the different types of nebulizers and where to get them. It's really cool. I'm really excited about that. I love researching this kind of stuff because to me, that's just ultimate solutions, right? You have a kid coming down with a cold or flu, boom, you can get them to nebulize for like 15-minute sessions 3 times a day. Powerful, powerful stuff. And so that's a protocol I'm currently working on right now. I just finished up the ultimate cold and flu protocol because as the seasons change here in California, I don't know what it was, but we had an unreal amount of rain this winter. And as a result of that, everything just overgrew. And when the season changed and the pollens came out, man, I first came down with like a seasonal allergy, which I never get that. And that turned into like a cold or flu type situation. And I was able to really mitigate that. Some of the things, I'll just tell you, the biggest things for me were vitamin C, 1,000 milligrams every 15 minutes. This is based on the work of Dr. Andrew Saul. And then that was really powerful, as well as zinc lozenges based on the work of George Eby, and iodine as well. And then combining with that vitamin C through capsule form was an IV vitamin C delivered via IV. And I added some glutathione to that. And I did a bunch of other things too that I lay out in the protocol, like the silver pulsar, and the different things I nebulized. So there's also something that I wasn't able to do, which really bummed me out because we have the ozone machine, right? And I talk about ozone all the time and the power of it. And I recently purchased an ozone machine for my parents from Promo Life. And we recently had Tobias Siegel from Promo Life on the show a month or two ago. I forget what the number for that was, in the 760s, I think. But so what happened was they didn't have the oxygen tank. So I gave that to my parents. And then the next day they ended up going up to Seattle on a trip. And then when they left for a week and a half, whatever it was, that's right when I got sick. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I give my oxygen machine to my parents and then they leave and then I need it and they're gone, right? So that was just a funny set of circumstances. So I was without ozone, which really bummed me out. But speaking of ozone too, I'm going to be releasing a course at some point on how to do rectal ozone insulfations, on how to do sinus insulfations, ear insulfations, how to utilize ozone bagging, how to utilize ozone cupping directly on the skin for skin cancers or any kind of thing like that. How and when and why to drink ozonated water, and systemic treatments for ozone and different ways of getting ozone on the teeth, on your hair. There's a million different ways to utilize ozone and get it on, in, or around your body. The only thing with ozone is that you don't want to breathe it, but you can breathe it through olive oil. And so we recently purchased an ozone machine from Promo Life ourselves. It's linked to on our store, Biocharge Me. And I think we have a coupon code. I think EHR10 is our coupon code there. But you can breathe it through olive oil, which I haven't done yet. So that's coming here soon. So that'd be really fun to utilize. But anyway, ozone would be a big part. Had I had my machine, I would have used it a lot more this time. But I go through the ultimate cold and flu protocol with a lot of supplements that you can get, and ways of utilizing the supplements, as well as home therapies like blood electrification, CO2 baths, nebulization, which I talked about, salt therapy, nasal sprays. Like I've got 2 nasal sprays linked in here that will just change the game for you guys. Again, you should buy 2 of these each and put one aside in your little medicine box that you use, and keep one more handy in case someone gets sick. But these are great things to have. And so I talked about hydrogen peroxide and Rife machines and PEMF and all the things that I did, the electron charger, medicinal baths. And so this is, another protocol that I put together. So that's the ultimate cold and flu protocol. I think that's done. And then I'm doing a protocol right now on, this is a question I get a lot, which is really interesting to me. But, I'll get this question where people will write in, they'll say, hey, my mom or my dad was just diagnosed with cancer and there's nothing that I can do for them. They're not willing to look at anything alternative. They're going to do chemo. Is there anything that they can take with chemo? And over the years, I've been exposed to lots of information in terms of things that you can do to mitigate chemotherapy, right? And, I don't know if you guys have any experience speaking to an oncologist, but I've always found that they are the most, what's the right word? They are the most egotistical, selfish kind of people. Now, I'm not saying that's all oncologists. Maybe that's just the few that I've talked to. But they, in my experience, the ones that I've been exposed to, have been very arrogant and condescending and egotistical as well. And my mom used to work for transcribing medical records in the 80s. And, she can attest to the same thing with orthopedic surgeons. There seems to be some sort of, I don't know what it is, maniacal complex that these people have. But the last time I was talking to an oncologist with my mom, who was diagnosed with breast cancer, I think this was probably 7-8 years ago. And I just said, I knew all the stuff I'm about to tell you right now. I already knew it, right? But I said to him, so is there anything that we could take with, that she could take with chemo in terms of like supplements, just trying to play like really innocent. It's really naive, and, he looks at me and he says, you know what? I love supplements. I really do. I think they're so great. But you know what? Supplements, they are gonna, they're not gonna work. and they're not going to help anything. And in fact, they're going to damage her, and they're going to prevent the chemo from working. And I just remember thinking, like, dude, you are so stupid, dude. Prevent the chemo from working. So chemo kills, it's a derivative of mustard gas, right? I don't know if people know that, but it's highly toxic, right? And when the doctors are delivering chemo, they have to wear full garb, right, to protect their skin and stuff. But we have to not take God's nutrients, whether that's in the form of food or supplements, whatever the case may be, right? Natural substances. We can't take those because that's going to prevent the poison from working. Like if he didn't understand, and so I didn't say anything, right? I just let those, 1 beat, 2 beat, 3 beat. I just let a few beats of pause go, right? To see if there's any wheels turning up in that head of his to figure out, hey, you know what I just said sounded really stupid, right? But sure enough, he just kept on. Right? It's like, really, really. So I just wanted to, get a feel, right, for his mindset when it came to that. But clearly he has not read the research. So with any with any chemotherapy radiation, you're getting massive amounts of electron loss, which causes pro-inflammatory conditions. And when molecules lose electrons, it's like a snowball effect. Then they become highly unstable and oxidize themselves. And then they become a pro-inflammatory molecule that goes around stealing free radical or more electrons from other molecules. And then that molecule then becomes, has an odd number of electrons attached to it. And now it needs to go steal one from something else to neutralize itself and to balance itself out. And so it becomes this cascading effect, right? So what you want to do, so this is not medical advice. This is just what I would do. When you're introduced something like chemotherapy, is it possible to go through chemotherapy without the energy loss, without the diarrhea, without the nauseousness, without the sleepless nights, without the constant pain, without the hair loss, without the aging and rapid, health issues that happen as a result of taking these drugs? Is it possible to go through that? And it turns out it is possible to go through that chemo and not lose your hair. It is possible. So what happens is chemotherapy does work. Although if you go by that Australia study from 1991, it said there was over a 5-year success rate in terms of being alive 5 years after the administration of chemotherapy. There is a 2.1 or 2.3% success rate with it. So that means, what is that, 97.3% or 97.7% ineffectiveness rate of chemotherapy, right? Not too good. But chemo does work in the sense that it kills both good cells and bad cells, right? We know that. So the trick is, how do I kill, if you look at this idea of killing, which I don't like it, but I'm just using their language. How do you kill the bad cells before you kill the good cells? Is that possible? And can you do that without too much oxidative damage to you and to your internal organs? And so it's a race, right? To see, can I kill the cancer before the good cells, right? If you kill the good cells too fast, the cancer continues to grow, and then you die of chemotherapy poisoning and not cancer, right? So that doctor, God bless his little soul, he wasn't able to look at this study called Antioxidants and Other Nutrients Do Not Interfere with Chemotherapy or Radiation Therapy and Can Increase the Kill and Increase Survival, Part 1. And this was from Charles Simone. This was published in February of 2007. And this is a study that was looking at 50 different human clinical randomized trials involving 8,500 people, 8,521. And these people were taking beta carotene, vitamin A as well, vitamin C and vitamin E. And we know those are pro-antioxidants, right? Or they're antioxidants. Selenium, cysteine, B vitamins, vitamin D3, which is really a hormone, and vitamin K3, as well as glutathione, right? And these people were taking them as single agents or in combination with each other. And let me read to you the conclusion. It says here, since the 1970s, 280 peer-reviewed in vitro and in vivo studies, including 50 human studies involving 8,521 patients, 5,081 of whom were given nutrients, have consistently shown that non-prescription antioxidants and other nutrients do not interfere with therapeutic modalities for cancer. Furthermore, they enhance the killing of therapeutic modalities for cancer, and they decrease their side effects, and they protect normal tissue. In 15 human studies of 3,738 patients, they took non-prescription antioxidants and other nutrients actually had increased survival. So what the oncologist says is, hey, don't take these things because there's no studies showing they're beneficial. And in fact, they're going to prevent chemotherapy from working. Right. And then you say, oh, doc, can I take vitamin D, vitamin C, whatever? Or, B vitamins, stuff like that. And they'll tell you that, right? And then they'll stop and they'll say, well, and you also really need to make sure that you do not take any antioxidants, right? But here it says, because antioxidants are going to prevent the chemo from working, right? In the conventional model, 3,738 patients who took non-prescription antioxidants, other nutrients actually had increased survival. So I don't know if old oncologist had been able to, read this particular study with 8,521 patients. Apparently he missed that one. Probably because he was too busy reading the inserts from the Pfizer documents and other information from pharmaceutical companies. And then here's one. This was from, February 2018. This one is called Antioxidants as, Antioxidants as Precision Weapons. Apologize for that. In war, take a sip of water here. Got to drink water here. 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. Antioxidants as precision weapons in war against cancer chemotherapy-induced toxicity, exploring the armory of obscurity. So it goes through talking about reactive oxygen species and DNA expression and oxidative stress. It's the leading cause of death, mortality worldwide, blah, blah, blah. And then it says here, the effect of supplementation of 13 different antioxidants and their analogs as a single agent or in combination with chemotherapy has been compiled in this article. The present review encompasses a total of 174 peer-reviewed original articles from 1967 until the current date, comprising 93 clinical trials with a cumulative number of 18,208 patients, 56 animal studies, and 35 in vitro studies. Okay. Then it says here, our comprehensive data suggests that antioxidants have superior potential of ameliorating chemotherapeutic-induced toxicity. Antioxidant supplementation during chemo also promises higher therapeutic efficiency and increased survival times in patients. Okay, so you can read the whole paper, which I have done, and it's quite substantial. It's quite long. This is the kind of thing that I do, right? I love reading this stuff, and I just laugh when people say, well, don't take... So this is exactly what happened with my mom, right? So during that time that I told the doctor, or I gave my mom, some of this information, and I said, Mom, you can tell the doctor what you're going to do, or you could just not do it or not tell him and do it, and she wanted to tell her doctor, right? So the doctor fed her this line of, BS, just like I told you, regurgitating, the information he was told by the pharmaceutical companies, and she didn't take any of this stuff. Now, my mom is incredibly resilient. She was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in 95, which originally got me into health, right? So I've been into health since 1995. Actually got really into it in 2003 when I became a raw food vegan for 7 years. So 2003 is when it really all began. But my eyes were opened in 1995. And she's had multiple cancers, a heart attack. She's been through so much. And she's still alive, but she's dealing with some massive free radical damage as a result of all of this chemo that could have been prevented had she been able to take antioxidants or had she taken. So it really comes down to fear, right? If your doctor is going to instill fear in you, Now, I can't give you medical advice, and I can't give medical advice at all. But if a doctor told me that I had some extra cells, my body had extra cells, not me, because I'm not my body. If a doctor told me that my body had some extra cells growing in them, and he wanted to give me this, mustard gas, I wouldn't tell him what I'm doing. I would definitely not tell him what I'm doing. And in my protocol, I've got 31 different things that I would take. Most of them I take now, but I've got 31 different things that you can take that are extremely powerful. The other thing that I would take that I won't, okay, so I've got 31 of them here. And you can choose to take 5 or 10 of them or 6 or 7 of them, whatever the case may be. Right. But, or you can take all of them, which is probably what I would do. But I just lay them all out and you can choose which ones you want to take based on clicking over from the links that I put in the protocols and the studies that I share and blah, blah, blah. But the other ones I would take are the Beljanski products. I've been really taken by the work of Dr. Mirko Beljanski. He was a French biochemist. I think he was born in 1929, 1928. I think he died in just before 2000 in 1999, I think, or 98. And he was a French biochemist. And if you read the book, I did a book review YouTube video about it. It's by Morton Walker called Cancer's Cause, Cancer's Cure. And in the book, he talks about the history of Dr. Mirko Beljanski and how his eyes were opened to start studying natural compounds for healing cancers. And he found the primary causes of cancer. Now, everyone has like their own cause, right? The Dr. Cruz's community will talk about light as being the primary cause or non-native EMF. And you can talk about other people have their things and mineral deficiencies and blah, blah, blah. So everyone has their input. But according to Dr. Beljanski, the primary cause seems to be this dysregulation of the DNA. And if you imagine the DNA looking like a ladder, right? You have two rungs of the ladder, or two sides of the ladder, and then the rungs in the middle, right? And so when something causes that double helix, when one of those rungs becomes detached from the side, those are held together in what they call a hydrogen bond. And the hydrogen bond can be different levels of strength based on lots of different factors, which he lays out in the book. And so there are things that can cause that hydrogen bond to weaken and or to completely separate from the side rungs of the DNA, double helix. And when that DNA becomes destabilized, more rungs will actually become broken off as well. And then you have a DNA that is causing cells to replicate in a way that was not designed by nature. And so that primarily, according to Beljanski, is the cause of cancer, right? And so he's been able to identify directly through experimentation the exact things that cause DNA to become destabilized. But in his research, he was able to find 3 separate molecules that restore the hydrogen bond of the DNA. And those are 3 things you probably have never heard of before. One comes from Brazil, one comes from the west coast of Africa, and I forget where the other one comes from. But one is called Paupira, the other one is called Rauwolfia vomitoria, and the third one is Ginkgo biloba. Now that one you probably heard before, but that one is the one from the west coast of Africa because it's specifically a yellow-leafed ginkgo. And there's something about it. I don't know enough about it to know why that's the case. I think he's published over 150 different peer-reviewed articles, Mirko Beljanski. So obviously I haven't been able to read all those. But so anyway, the Beljanski products would be part of that. So what I would do is read those books. Read Cancer's Cause, Cancer's Cure, and Winning the War Against Cancer. And so I list, like I said, 31 different things that I would take if I were doing chemotherapy. But then also I share specific questions that you should ask your doctor before you do chemo. And these are really powerful questions that you need to download and you need to write down and you need to ask your oncologist these specific questions. And I link to them in this document. And so you can download those questions and ask your oncologist these specific questions, because this is life and death. You know, your doctor, what he wants to do is say, hey, you were just diagnosed on Thursday. You got to start chemo on Monday. That's what they do. And that's what they'll say. Not knowing, or maybe he does, who knows, that these cancers have been growing for 5 to 7 years minimum. The average person has 3 to 4 major bouts of cancer in their lifetime, and they don't even know it, because the trauma is resolved, the emotional healing happens, the person is able to overcome that without ever having a symptom, or without ever even knowing it. But if you were tested during that time, you would quickly be shuttled into the hospital and given chemotherapy, which happened to a friend of mine, and he died from that. Actually, he died from, he was getting chemo in the hospital, which I think it was working in terms of shrinking the tumor size. But what people don't know about chemo either is that it doesn't kill cancer stem cells. And so this friend of ours actually died because they forgot to change his, what do they call that when you, I think it's called a port, right? Where you have a port inserted so you don't have to keep doing needle sticks. It's like, you know, directly into your artery or something like that. And they forgot to do that, and he died of, I think, sepsis. He's one of the 440,000 people a year that die from medical intervention. But what people don't know is that I like to think of cancer like, you know, two guys fighting outside of a bar, and, you know, the fight goes outside, and then all of a sudden you have 30, 50 people watching the fight, right? So if you were to pan up from an aerial view, you know, with a drone, you looked at this big group of people and two guys in the middle fighting. Those two guys are the cancer stem cells. The other people watching, that's the tumor. And so what happens is that the cops come and boom, clear the area, and those two guys walk off, and then they start the fight somewhere else, right? And then that quickly metastasizes and starts growing as well, because the stem cells, what chemo seems to do is it angers the stem cells. And so the chemotherapy can reduce tumor size, but it doesn't get rid of the problem. The stem cells themselves are going to regrow somewhere else. That's why you see a really low rate of people living past 5 years. It's very rare. So anyway, you could utilize these substances, these 31 things that I mentioned while doing chemo. And what the beneficial effect of that is when that happens, it's a race, right? To kill the cancer cells before you kill the good cells, right? But this protects the good cells from being damaged by the oxidative stress. So now you don't have more electron loss. Now those electrons can be donated to what's going on with the killing of the cancer cells and to mitigate the damaging effects of the chemo itself in that perspective as well. And so that causes the chemo to be more therapeutic, like I just read in that study. So I've got, let's see, three of those different studies, that most doctors don't know about. Anyway, so I'm doing all this, right? So like I do have compassion for people that take chemo, and I don't say you should never take chemo. If it were me, I might do insulin potentiation therapy combined with antioxidant support like this, if you were going to do chemo. So it's really important to realize like what your options are out there and to really do your research. And so, I have a lot of compassion as someone whose mom had stage 3 or 4, whatever it was, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, given less than a 10% chance of survival back in 95. I have a lot of compassion, and so if you want to do chemo, I support anyone doing anything. It's not my role to convince anybody of anything. That's not my role. My role is to say, hey, here's all the options, and, whatever one you choose, I love you and you do you, right? I'll support you no matter what you do. And so I like putting this stuff together, as a way of putting things on the table. So anyway, that is 31 different things that you can utilize during a chemotherapy session. And I have to say, check with your doctor. I'm not a medical doctor. This isn't medical advice, right? Always check with the doctor. Wink, wink. So there you go on that. So I'm doing the nebulization. I did the cold and flu protocol, the mitigating chemo protocol. I'm doing a protocol right now on cardiovascular health. So a lot of cool stuff. And then we also on Patreon too, we allow you guys to ask questions to our guests. Okay, so this is more now a part of our private community. So if we're going to interview, say, Adam Bergstrom, or we're going to interview Morley Robbins, or we're going to interview Dr. Jack Cruz about light or something like that, and you have a health condition, if you're a member of our Patreon, what I'll do is I'll say, hey, I'm interviewing Morley tomorrow, and we're going to be talking about copper and iron or whatever. And if you have any health questions, reply to this email and I'll ask them. And so we get to the end of the interview and I'll typically do a rapid fire with the guest and we'll ask them, typically it's around 10 or 15 questions that people have been writing in. And then what I do is I take that little chunk out. And when you listen to the podcast, either you watch the video of it on Bitchute or Brighteon or YouTube, or you listen to the iTunes version of the podcast, we cut that part out. And so as a Patreon member, you get to ask the questions and then we upload that throughout the month. We'll just, every random, we'll just upload those questions. And so we'll upload a commercial-free version of the show on Patreon so you can listen without commercials and you can listen that includes those questions. And this is our way of saying thank you and, our way of building a community of support. And so, I love doing all the stuff that we're doing, and it really does help when you support the show. And so a lot of people have been asking about the different tiers that we have. So all of the protocols are released eventually to the basic tier, which is $5 a month. That tier, you get one protocol per month. And you don't get access to the audio versions of those protocols though. You just get one protocol per month for $5 a month, and that includes everything in there and where I would start and how long I would take the supplements and what order and what dosage, and the specific ones I would use to start with. And then there's also links to all the studies and different resources and books and websites and videos and podcasts, all kinds of different things on these subjects. And so the only difference between the basic and the premium is that the premium, you get 3 protocols per month, and the basic, you get 1. And eventually the basic will get all the same ones a premium does. It just takes longer because, they only get 1 per month. But it's a great way to support the show. And as a basic member, you also still get access to the live Q&As. Now, they take place at 11 a.m. on the last Thursday of every month. And we've done 2 so far, and I love it. It's so much fun. We get to meet and get to hang out, and I get to hear stories, and you guys get to share with each other and share with me things that are working for you. It's really cool. The basic one, the basic tier, you get access to that. You can be live. But if you want to hear the replay, that's only available for the premium or the VIP. So if you're able to be there live as a basic member, that's awesome. And you can get access to that. So there's a few other, differences too. Like if you're a premium member, I think that you can't watch that video, but as a VIP member, you can watch the video, replay and the audio replay too, depending on what you want. So, there's a lot of other things that we offer too, like a bunch of really cool ebooks. Each tier gets more ebooks and they're awesome, dude. They're so cool. One of them is called, The Cure for Cancer That Time Forgot, I think. And it's a protocol for beating cancer, with something that you can get for $12.99 on Amazon. It's like, whoa. I won't sort of give away what that is, but it's amazing. It's amazing. It's a PDF document put together by a doctor that's available as a free ebook when you join. So anyway, I would just love to have you as part of that community. So if you like the work that we do, consider at the very least, joining up as a basic member or just going through our links too. A lot of great ways to support the show. You can go, if you purchase regularly on Amazon, there's a dual little bonus. If you click our link from our link in our bio on Instagram, what's cool about that is that it supports us. We get a little tiny commission, but if all of you guys do it, it really helps. But it also takes money away from Jeff Bezos. So it's kind of like stealing from Jeff a little bit. So there's a little less profit for Jeff if you go through our Amazon link. I don't know what's more, exciting to be able to support someone you like if you like our show, or take money away from Jeff Bezos. But, both are happening when you click through our Amazon link. So I appreciate that. And also if you're able to, leave us a review on iTunes, that really helps us a lot. So anyway, I hope that was cool. So, the new protocols coming on Patreon are the nebulization protocol, the cold and flu, the chemo mitigation, and the cardiovascular one. This month, for the month of April 2023, is lipomas, fibroids, and digestion. And the other protocols we have are diabetes, skin cancer, eczema, cholesterol, vision, gray hair, blood pressure, skin health, and bone health. And if you join at the VIP level, you'll get access to all of those immediately. If you join at the basic level, I'm not sure which ones are available. I think there's 2 or 3 available of those. And then if you join at the premium level, which is the middle tier, you'll get some more, because that tier gets 2 per month. So I hope it all makes sense. I'm trying to do this as a service, as well as a way to bring my research to you, to offer you suggestions. I call them protocols just because kind of no other word for them, but it's basically everything I know about a given subject. And I try to include as many different potential healing modalities as possible. So, for example, if I know that a certain Gauss reading of a pulsed electromagnetic field therapy device can have beneficial impacts on neural cells and glial cells in the brain, reversing depression, for example, I'm going to include PEMF therapy and the possibility of going to somewhere like pulsecenters.com to see if there's a place in your area where you can utilize that kind of treatment. Or if I think that there is a beneficial aspect of doing, like, let's say you've got something going on where, you could do ozone injections or, ultraviolet blood irradiation therapy, so that's going to be a part of it too. So, there's a lot of different sort of biohacks and herbs and, traditional Chinese medicine and stuff like that I include, as much as I can. And like I said before, I add to it. So when I hear something that's really beneficial, I'll look it up and research it. And if it looks good, I'm going to add it to the protocol. So I love learning and constantly learning and, really putting together, a bunch of different options. Like I said, I call it a protocol, but it's not really like a protocol. It's, a bunch of different things that have beneficial effects and people have used to reverse certain conditions. And so it's up to you to look at which one is going to work for you and decide, but it gives you a really good place to start, right? So that's really ultimately what I'm trying to do here, because we're all different. And, what works for me may not work for you and vice versa. So, you may find that, hyperbaric oxygen combined with, IV methylene blue may be your solution. But for me, it may be red light therapy and PEMF and sauna therapy or ozone saunas. And so when I find, studies on how those therapies can impact XYZ condition, then I'm going to put them both in there, and only you will know what will work for you. So you might look at some of these things and say, hey, I'll cherry pick, options 6, 7, and 8, while I may cherry pick and start with, 3, 4, and 5 kind of a thing. So, trying to include as much as I possibly can. It's a lot of fun. I love it. If I could just sit around and research all day, the problem is that, I've got to produce shows. I got to learn marketing, because we're constantly being, kicked out of YouTube and stuff like that, and learn new platforms. I just wish I could just sit around and read all day and study and put together these protocols, which I do, but there's never seems to be enough time for all of it. So anyway, consider joining us on Patreon and join the community there. You can cancel at any time you want if you want to, or pause. I think you can pause it too. This is a website that allows you to control, update your credit card and that kind of thing. And you kind of just do that all on your own, just like you would if you, subscribe to someone's channel on YouTube or something like that. You kind of just, turn it off and on as you see fit. But with the 3 different tiers to choose from, it may be something to look at. And I would hope that you would join us. And I'm looking forward to the next live session, the last Thursday of each month. And it's really fun to meet people and to talk and to listen and to hear and to share stories and encourage each other and inspire each other. And one thing that's really cool about it too is it makes you feel like you're not alone, right? I was speaking to, oh gosh, what was her name? Oh, I forget what her name was. But spoke with a completely perfect American accent. I was assuming she's American, but she said she was in Sweden. And she was talking about how she got, she's recently been doing ozone therapy. She just bought a red light device. She's doing molecular hydrogen. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. That's like, it makes me feel I'm not alone, right? Because, compared to the average normie, we're crazy people, right? So it's a good way to build community, even though it's online, that people who see the world the way we do. And I like to be solutions oriented. So it's a lot of fun. So Patreon. So I'm going to be doing like this kind of podcast, little updates, just probably once a month, because like I said, on the last day of the month is when I upload the protocols to Patreon, and I'll be doing, updates on what I'm working on, what's going on with us and that kind of thing. New things I'm thinking about and new areas of research that I'm researching. Been doing some research lately, on some different compounds that are anti-aging. We did that show with Leslie on spermidine, which is really interesting, for gray hair and oxidation, and hair loss and disease prevention. There's a lot of really interesting evidence on spermidine. So we did a show with Leslie Kenny all about that, which was super fun. So I just like researching different areas of health and sharing it with you guys. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the show, episode 769. So what I'll do is I'll place links to our Patreon, the Electroculture show that we did, and the show with Leslie Kenny, if you're interested in that spermidine product, at extremehealthradio.com/769. And there'll be links there to at the bottom if you scroll down, or in the show notes if you're just on a podcast player right now. If you scroll down, there'll be links to our Bitchute and our Brighteon, stuff like that. Really encourage you guys to start using and utilizing alternative platforms, because this whole system is collapsing, and I hope it does. I say screw you, YouTube, for doing that to me, to doing that to other people. I don't care what you do, you're going down, and your system is going to be obsolete, and the truth will be known, and your business is going to go out of business if you keep doing the things that you're doing, which is suppressing knowledge and suppressing options for healing, for true healing. So, consider utilizing other platforms. So I hope you enjoyed the show. I'm going to go produce this show and eat some dinner. It's about 6:00 now, and got to put the Willie and Benny to sleep here. They've been sleeping really great. They've always been such amazing sleepers. We're so blessed and thankful for that. Incredible. I think it's partially because we utilize the red lights. They sleep on a Magnetico mattress pad, on an organic bed. We have the air purifiers in the room with the plants, and, they take a magnesium bath before bed. And they do our baby drops, which I should do a protocol in the Patreon for that. That's our ultra mineral drop that we give them. And so we're so blessed, so blessed. Kids are so great. So anyway, thank you guys for listening. I hope it provided some kind of value to you. And in the month of May, we're going to be doing more interviews and all kinds of cool stuff. So make sure to follow us, share us on Instagram, whatever the case may be. I would really appreciate you doing that. That would be extremely helpful. And I love you so much, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action based on any information in this blog or to start any health program without